Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crisis Marketing, our webinar. We're so proud to have Jeremy Miller with us. Jeremy is a globally recognized branding expert and the best-selling author of Sticky Branding and Brand New Name. And many of you may remember Jeremy from his presentation at our Bridges to Better Business event last year up in Huntsville. And he was such a hit that we knew we just had to have him come back and share some more of his wisdom with us. Jeremy can tell you in vivid detail what every recession, starting with the 1989 market crash, was like. He has learned through real boots on the ground experience how to navigate and thrive in a crisis. He grew up in a family business in the recruiting sector, and their company would go up and down with the economy. But during the Grand Recession of 2008 and 2009, Jeremy's family business bucked all the industry trends and grew. While their competitors were cratering, his company generated a new customer a week. In 2013, Jeremy sold his family's business to focus exclusively on what he does today, which is building brands. After the coronavirus, Jeremy and the Sticky Branding team focused their attention on crisis marketing. He helps business owners and their teams recover customers and revenues that were taken by the COVID-19 virus so they can come out the crisis even stronger. Please join me in welcoming Jeremy Miller.
Thanks, Terry. Wow, it's such a pleasure to be here. It's so cool to come back. It feels like 2 years since I presented at the Bridges conference, and wow, things have changed. So I wish our topic would be a little bit brighter, but we're going to try and have some shared ideas and keep this on the positive side of things with all that's going on. And so let's dive into this. Before I go a little bit deeper, here's where I'd like to try and take today's presentation. Before coronavirus, a big part of my world was spent giving conference speeches and traveling and going to events. And as a speaker, what I love to do is to create engagement, games, conversations, all that type of stuff. But the problem with a webinar is it feels like I'm talking to it through television. I'm speaking to a camera, you're consuming, and there's this distance between us. So what I want to try and do today is experiment with using this platform as best that we can to have a multi-streamed form of conversation. So we're going to have a Q&A at the end. As I put things out there, what are your questions? Post your questions in the Q&A. We'll go through this near the end. As we're going to do the presentation, there's 5 polls that my colleague Sarah is going to share. So put your votes in. Let's get some action and engagement going on that way. But we've also got the chat. So if you haven't already, introduce yourself, introduce your brand, even introduce where you're from. And let's use this moment too in the chat to share your experience. As I share an idea or as I share a case study, let's try to bring in our own experiences along this way. And hopefully through this, we create a much more dynamic and engaged experience. The other piece to this is this call will be recorded. So if you want to go back and rewatch any of this, you will be able to. So let's dive into this because we are really at this critical and surreal moment in time. And I really think of it as a BC AC moment. Now, it's not really before Christ, after Christ. It's before coronavirus, after coronavirus. And there's going to be this dividing line in 2020 where we hit this coronavirus crisis, and it has changed everything. It is so surreal that we can pejoratively say the new normal, and we know what we mean because realistically, everything is shifting all under us, and we don't have a roadmap with what is going on. But this moment in time has been very purpose-driven for myself because it struck a significant chord for me. As Terry mentioned, I grew up in a family business that was in the recruiting sector, and I never really spoke to this in my previous work before coronavirus, but growing up in a recruiting business, our family business would go up and down with the economy. And every time there was a recession, our business suffered. And I can tell you in vivid detail what each and every recession has been like, starting with the market crash in 1989. And that was my formative years. I was a teenager. I was between 13 and 16 years old. And if you were from a certain generation, if I were to say Ray days, you would know what that means. Those were moments where the Bob Rae and the NDP government actually enforced unpaid days off for government workers to try and conserve money. And so this was a very challenging moment in time. It was a challenging moment for my family's business. My parents went through layoffs. We had to tighten our belt at home. We made sacrifices. And my heart goes out to everyone with children today, and just what's going on right now. In one way, it's a blessing. You're getting to spend time with your kids. The other side of it, this moment with the disruption in school and the sacrifices that we make, this all leaves a mark on us, on ourselves, on our families, and everyone around us. And so this moment has triggered this in me. And so we went through this again and again. Now you see in the arrow on here, in 2004, I joined my family's business, which is called Leap Job. And we timed it to be at the bottom of a recession moment. That was deliberate. And from the moment I joined my family's business, we were thinking about the next recession. We had it programmed into our DNA. And we were building our strategy for what would happen, because we never wanted to go through that kind of pain again. And it worked. Our strategy worked. In the 2008-2009 recession, when the rest of my industry was in free fall, we actually grew. And we did that by replacing our core customers with new customers. And in that period, we actually brought on a new customer a week. And that success of that moment in time actually empowered me to be able to sell my family business in 2013. And that carried on, and everything I've done in Sticky Branding since. But when I look back to March of this year, it's really had a significant impact on me, because all of this programming kicked in again. And I could see this at the very beginning, when March 11th, the travel advisory bans were put in place. Then we had the NBA close, and MLB and NHL, and all the sports teams shuttered. By March 15th, we were already starting to see the layoffs, and I was watching the unemployment rates. And I went to my clients and said, look, we are going to be seeing a significant decline in revenue this year, significant issues. We need to get ahead of this really, really quickly. And I've been tracking this ever since. You just look at April's job numbers for the US. It's 10 times worse than the worst moment of the 08-09 recession. Just the carnage out there is so substantial. But within this, I do believe there is a path to move forward. And so this moment in time has really caused me to recenter and rethink my entire approach. And I feel very purpose-driven today, because at Sticky Branding, what we have done is repositioned all of our thinking to take all of that experience I had with my family business and everything we've done today to work with business owners to help them slingshot out of this crisis. And it really looks in this in a couple of phases, and we're going to explore this today. As the first phase is, how do you replace the customers and revenue taken by this pandemic crisis? And then how do you use this as an opportunity to slingshot out of it? And this is a fluid situation. So my hope for us today in this webinar is actually to share what we have been learning and some of the models that are working over the last 12 weeks, or a little bit less than that now. So share some of our early learnings, but also share with you some case studies and some inspiration of that there is hope and there is opportunity out here. And I do think that that's really is the case, because it's spring outside. You look outside and it's getting warmer. There is blossoms on the trees. There is dandelions as far as the eye can see. But as the spring's coming out here, we're already starting to see the economy start to reopen. The restrictions are starting to be lifted. We have some hope of the economy reopening. Retailers are starting to be allowed to reopen. And this is creating an opportunity. And as we get this positive energy, we're starting to see green shoots of opportunity. And a green shoot is a new need that is emerging because of this situation. And we can see all around us all these new needs. We're communicating today via webinars. We're communicating through social distancing and curbside pickup. And all these things are emerging, and they're going to stick around. And it's in this moment in time that you have an opportunity. Let me give you a very dramatic example. In the 2002-2003 SARS pandemic in China, that was the moment that what created the rise of the e-commerce in China. Because while China and the Chinese population were social distancing, they started to use the online tools just as we are today. And that created the rise of giants like Alibaba. And in this, there is this same set of issues that are emerging today where people are starting to rise up. We're starting to see new opportunities through e-commerce, curbside pickup, social distancing, using Zoom communication, all of that. But that's the obvious stuff. When you look across every sector, there are green shoots of opportunity. Let me give you a tangential one, a strange one, for example. What we have seen over the last several weeks is that construction workers have been walking off job sites across the country. And the reason being that the porta potties have been deemed unhygienic. And now, at the best of times, a porta potty is not a place you want to hang out in. But after coronavirus, it's potentially deadly. The CDC has said that coronavirus can be carried inside human waste. And so construction workers have been demanding better clean facilities. And they're expecting these facilities to be cleaned 3 to 5 times a day. Now, before this, it could have been cleaned once a week. So you see this sudden emergence of a massive volume of need, but this creates a cascading or a ripple effect that happens. So the number of cleans go up, but now the porta potty cleaning service or the service companies have to hire more people. Now they've got the trucks on the road more often, so they have to service them more. They need more hoses, they need more valves, they need more equipment. Then they're buying more trucks, and that whole supply chain from the end customer to the manufacturers, the distributors, and everyone in between are experiencing emerging needs. And this is what a green shoot is. As the economy reopens, we're going to see people having new expectations, new needs, and that is one potential opportunity for each and every one of us. And one of the biggest ones right now is how do employers open safely? We have an issue right now where how do we open up in a post-coronavirus world? We've been locked down and shuttered for the last several weeks, but now we are facing a moment where we have to find new skills. So you hear about Walmart putting in plexiglass between their workers and doing other types of things to do this. But there's cleaning needs, there's HR needs, there is mental health needs. The ripple effects are massive of this. So if you can be creative, you can see new opportunities. And that's what crisis marketing is all about. It's about being helpful. And there's 3 key questions that I've been asking again and again throughout this crisis, which is who needs your company and its expertise the most right now? What products or services can you deliver to solve real problems that are valued? And how can you proactively sell and deliver your services to the people with the most need? And this is what is so critical today, is that this experience that we're going through is a shared experience. Everybody is being affected by this pandemic. Every person and every company from around the world is going through the exact same thing at the exact same time. And out of that, we all have new needs. But if you can be creative, you can see ways of being of service. And this is really what a green shoot is. New needs are green shoots. And if you can find green shoots, you can be of service. And that is your path to generating cash and short-term revenue. So how do you do that? Well, we use a very simple model at Sticky Branding, which basically looks at new versus existing customers, and then your services as incremental change versus substantive change. And so the first place we look is, what can you do in your current business? You've got customers, you've got people that support you, that want you to succeed. So how can you evolve your existing products and services to support your core customers? Curbside pickup is a brilliant example of this. We are finding just a different way of delivering through incremental change. We can still be able to serve our customers. But once you started to exhaust that, where you want to look to are the corners. So how can you take your existing products and services to new markets or new customers? For example, if you're a retailer, maybe exploring adding a Shopify site or e-commerce so that you can sell outside of your core community, or maybe it creating and offering new products and services to your existing customers. And it really all boils down with being helpful. How can you use your expertise to be of service? And when you look at this, you start to see these green shoots of opportunity. It's in the corners that you see these opportunities. And this is something that I get really excited by, because this is potentially the greatest entrepreneurial opportunity that we all face. Is when we look at things differently, we start to see ways that we can grow our business. And the needs that you find today are the ones that are going to create opportunities. Now, to support this, I've got a little tool for you. It's a two-page worksheet that you can use. So if you send me an email to jeremy@stickybranding.com, I'll send you back the worksheet on how to do this exercise on your own or with your team. And I'll put a reference to this again, but jeremy@stickybranding.com. So let's look at an example here. Let's look at a dramatic example. I'd like to introduce you to a company called Element Fitness, which is actually one of Canada's largest CrossFit gyms. They are based in Mississauga, and this is a very wonderful place. It's a dynamic gym, a real pioneer and innovator in the fitness space, one of the first CrossFit gyms in Canada. And this, as you can see in the video, is a place where you go to get sweaty. It's a great community, great coaching, great place, but it's not a place you want to be at or visiting after the coronavirus, because obviously it's a place you go to get sweaty. Now, at the start of this crisis, in March 11th, they saw it coming, and by March 13th, the gym was closed. But let me skip to the end and give you their stats, and then I'll talk about what they've actually done. Even though they can't operate this physical location, they have maintained a 92% member retention rate with a 9.8 net promoter score. Now, in the round of that's my melty. They've got a gym where members are paying $200 a month, and they have a 92% member retention rate, and it's actually been growing since as this has continued. And then, as terms of member satisfaction, they're getting a 9.8 out of 10. These are remarkable numbers. And I went to Alex Sabiri, who is the founder. I said, how did you do this? And he said, well, we moved very, very fast, and we went with the expectation that this is forever. And so right at the very start of this crisis, Alex posed to his team two thoughts. The first thing he asked is, how do we recreate the class experience virtually? So how do we take our core services to a new, or take our core services to the existing market, but we evolve them. So doing a substantive change. But then to frame that, he made a very profound statement. He said, Element is not in the equipment rental business. We're in the coaching and community business. And this was really intriguing for me. So I asked him, why do you say that? He said, well, most gyms consider themselves to be a rental business. You buy a membership, you go to a space, you use the equipment, you leave. Well, that value proposition is basically useless in a lockdown. But he said, what we do better than anyone is coaching and community. And what we wanted to try and recreate was the community and coaching experience so we could deliver value to our members. And that has been so profound. So like many gyms, they put all their programming online, they did video, they did the free delivery, but that's not what caused their success. They started to innovate. The first thing they offered was a home coach, which was every member was assigned a coach who would text or follow up with them every week or every day actually, and just tailor the workouts through them, create accountability, create connection. They also offered Zoom classes so that you could time in specific times during the day. And as they were doing this, they were constantly talking and surveying to their members. And so when they started, they assumed that people just wanted a short workout that they could get home, or they could do at home, get sweaty and move on with their day. But it turns out that people were looking for an escape for their lives. We're all stuck at our home. We're looking for a break. So they were asking for longer workouts and longer experiences. So they extended their workouts to hour-long classes. And then at night, they created basically television or community programming. 7 days a week at 7:30 p.m., they have an activity. It could be a dance class, wine tastings, game nights, and tons of members are participating. And this has created an opportunity that is really engaging their community, and the numbers speak for themselves. So at a moment in time where the fitness industry is in decline, Element is rising up by looking at better ways to serve the needs of their members. And that's, I think, one of the key opportunities here. So as we're going through this, I'm just going to pose a question you can have in the chat. What do you see as the green shoots in your community? How can you innovate in the corners? Are you seeing any examples in your community of people are doing things well? Or more importantly, are you doing anything? Share your experiences in the community. Share your experiences in the chat. So let's add that other element here. Now, let me pose forward on this. I want to put in a bit of a sobering moment into this conversation, because the reality is there is an immense disparity caused by this pandemic and the lockdowns that have happened. And there are very clear winners and losers, but also a lot of complexity here. And the thing that is so different of this crisis compared to previous crises is it's not an economic or financial crisis, it's a health crisis. And as a result, we are facing two significant issues, a business issue and a psychological issue. Let's deal with the psychological issue first. The first thing to recognize is that we are scared. It's like we've been taken down Maslow's hierarchy of needs and just smushed right down this triangle. And for the first time, we are facing safety issues, safety for our personal security, our employment, our health, our property. All of this has been put into jeopardy. And as a result, it's causing not only fear and anxiety in ourselves, but also within our customers. And the psychological element is an important dynamic inside of what we're facing today. And then layer onto this, we have a business issue. And the strategy models here are really important because it's a spectrum. We have companies that are leading to bleeding. Now, if you're in the personal protective equipment space, say you're selling hand sanitizer or safety masks, you've hit the lottery. If you are in grocery, again, this has been deemed an essential service, and people are coming to you in droves. But at the other side of it, there is the bleeding side. We have a client that's a large provider in the restaurant industry, and my heart goes out to everyone in that space because it is substantial, the damage. And if you can't transition to takeout or other options, you could be in the realm of bleeding. And so what is the strategies that we have here are really important. And so one of the things I want to just put on the table is, realistically, as business owners, we face one of three choices. We can exit, we can hibernate, or we can innovate. For the first time ever, I've started to say that exiting or taking your chips off the table is a reasonable option in this pandemic. I probably would never have said this before coronavirus, but today, if you are bleeding, if you are in a state where the opportunities are dire and the recovery is long, don't be a martyr. Don't try to ride this out. Maybe the best option is simply to take your chips off the table and come back under better circumstances. The second option is hibernate. I actually think this is the worst option. Trying to wait it out and hope for things to get better is not a great path forward. So how can you, it's an option, but I think it's the worst option. So where I want to spend our time today is really on this innovation quadrant. And whether you are hibernating or exiting, innovation is the key to it. How do you think differently? How do you approach this thing smart and dynamically in a fluid situation? And what we're looking at Sticky Branding is really two strategy horizons that guide our thinking today. The first is phase one, which is the immediate needs. How do we recover the customers and revenue taken by COVID-19? And this came out of my experiences in my family business, is that the key to success in a recession is that you're seeing declines in revenue. So how can you get creative finding new markets and new spaces to shore up cash flow so you can fight another day? Now, if you're bleeding, this might be printing t-shirts saying, I survived COVID-19, just as a way to pay for rent. But reality is we're probably somewhere in the middle from slipping to stable. So how do you get more innovative about serving your customers? And then once you get into a stability place, the next question is, how do you slingshot out of this crisis? How do you use this momentum, these new shifts, to create a new opportunity? And so wherever you sit in this spectrum, the question really comes down to, how do you do that? And what I have discovered over the last several weeks is that the key to climbing this ladder is mindset. Whether you're leading or bleeding, it's all about mindset and your ability to navigate forward. And the way I frame this is, you need a warrior's mindset. You get this, you talk to hardened entrepreneurs right now, and they seem to be thriving. They're looking for opportunities. They're energized. They're just battle driven right now. And I see this, this really as a golden opportunity for entrepreneurship right now, because the playing field has been leveled. All of us are going through the exact same experience. We have access to funding, but most importantly, our customers want us to succeed. And so the companies that act first and adapt fastest have the advantage. But to get there, you need to challenge that warrior mindset. If you like, watch the movie 300 or get yourself fired up, because it's your ability to rise, is your ability to see the opportunities. And what I've heard many entrepreneurs say to me over the last several weeks is, I feel like I've been preparing my whole career for this moment. I said this at the start of this webinar, that I really do believe that I've been preparing my whole career for this moment in time. All of my family business experience, all my work at Sticky Branding, everything has set us up to be of service and be helpful right now. But that warrior mindset is also a key part of this. I remember at the beginning of this crisis, I would tell my clients, I would tell my friends that, F this virus, this thing's not going to hold us down. We're going to conquer it, and we're going to come out of this year stronger than ever. And we will. And this is coming through that fiery place of, how do you find those opportunities when you get kicked in the shins? What are you going to do to try and fight back? But that warrior mindset opens up permission to see lots of different opportunities. Let me give you an example. One of my longtime clients, and I think just a wonderful brand, is Central Smith. They're actually one of Canada's largest ice cream manufacturers. And if you've ever eaten ice cream in a restaurant in Canada, you've probably eaten their ice cream. But you get the sense of this right away when I say that if you've eaten their ice cream in a restaurant, then they probably are suffering right now. And that was actually the case, that very quickly a significant part of their market disappeared in a matter of days. But they are actually thriving right now. And the way they have done that is by empowering their team and in creating that warrior mindset in the entire organization. For example, two of their young employees, Jillian and Megan, got the idea of launching a Shopify store. And so in the span of the week, they put up a Shopify store to sell all their overstock ice cream. They didn't know if it would be successful. They didn't know what would happen, but they knew they had all these big tubs of ice cream that the restaurant trade wasn't taking. So maybe the community would buy it. So they put up a Shopify store. They went to the local Chamber of Commerce. They partnered with a few bloggers, and they got the word out. And they were absolutely blown away by just the support that they received. And this is, I think, a key comment here, is that your customers want you to succeed. They want you to thrive. And that's exactly what's been going on at Central Smith. When they put up their little Shopify site, they weren't expecting much. But in the first week's sales, actually beat the store's retail sales for a month. And that number has continued to increase week after week after week. They've also been innovating on this. So every week they try to offer something new. For example, they put on hand-packed tubs. And they first thought they'd only sell, say, 200 hand-packed tubs. And they sold 1,700 in the first day, which meant they could hire another person to support this. And they've also seen, as their retail side of their business has fallen, that, or as the restaurant side has fallen, the retail side has boomed, and that demand has increased by 5 times. And that goes to work that they have been investing in for several years. And so they have created this culture that is really taking moments and trying to rise up. If they turtled or hibernated, they would not be in a very good position today. But because they've empowered their team, they're looking to the corners and they're finding opportunities. And I had a chat with Brett Stevenson, who is the COO at Central Smith, and he said, we have transitioned from an and/or culture to an and culture. And what he meant by that is people used to think of themselves as having a job. This is my job, that's your job, I do this in my job description, don't ask me to do the other things. And there was those lines. But after coronavirus, they have transitioned to what he calls an and culture. This is my job, and if you ask me to do something else, I'll do that too. Or they will just look for an opportunity, just like Jillian and Megan. They look for an opportunity, they try it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does. But the more they try, the more opportunities they are finding to get out there. And so this is where mindset's so important. You will find opportunities when your mindset is programmed and tuned to find that. And I truly believe the key to this whole moment in time is that the world needs you and your company more than ever. That we have so much need right now. Our customers have need, from financial need to being stuck at home to looking for joy. Like, just think of the power that a comedian or an entertainer has today. Just to you think of the saints that are creating these Instagram live stories to entertain people's children at home. Like, this is such new, interesting markets. And when you're creative, you'll see that the world needs you. But the key to this is to be very helpful and to move fast. There's this risk that we face right now that you can be perceived as opportunistic or icky if you sell your services. But if you are perceived as helpful, if you are trying to serve need, then you'll never be felt that way. You'll never be perceived as icky. But you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving fast. Now, I like to say that in a crisis, strategy is everything. This is a play on the idea that in a crisis, timing is everything, but it's that thinking that's required. You can't just do everything. How can you focus your resources to be hyper relevant and hyper helpful right now? And if you do that, the world will support you. Your customers will support you. They want you to succeed. Winston Churchill said it best: never waste a good crisis. So let me ask you, what do you want your business to look like at the end of this crisis? You have this opportunity right now. I know it's hard. I know it's terrible what's going on right now, but how are you going to rise up? So let's do this. I'm going to let's open the floor up for some Q&A. I'm actually going to, let me put the video on, and I will introduce my colleague, Sarah. And let's see if we have any questions. Sarah, do you want to pop on your video? And
hello. So we have a few questions.
okay.
The first one is from Aaron.
Okay.
He's asking, as provinces begin to open again, what can I do to stand out amongst the "we're open" email blasts and COVID protection instructions everyone will be sending? What can I do to stand apart?
Excellent question, Aaron. I think one of the challenges that we have all faced is that we have all tried to communicate that we are open, and that was okay at the first few weeks of this, but today we need to evolve our content and our communication to how we can be relevant and sensitive to what our customers are feeling right now. So I think one of the questions that I would pose to you is, how can you be in touch with your customers? And a simple question might be just to survey them and ask them, how are they dealing with the quarantine life? How is this impacting them? And start that dialogue. And once you start understanding their needs, you can create more relevant content. Now, Sarah, before we go on to another question, I'll pose out, if you're looking for the Q&A, you'll see in the bottom of your screen, there is a little Q&A button. You can click that and submit your questions. And you can also post them in the chat. I think Sarah will be able to see those too.
Yes, so we have a few more coming in now. One of our audience members says, I am having a really difficult time if I should invest money for marketing when I know I'm not bringing in as much money. This is something I'm really struggling with. Invest in marketing, $600 to $1,000 a month.
Great question. One of the things that I think we need to look at in our marketing is what's going to work and what's not going to work. Let me just speak to a business-to-business example for a moment. One of the things that we have seen since the start of the crisis is that pretty much all middle management decision-making authority has been removed, that the only people able to make a decision is the business owner or the executive team. And the only way to, but the problem is those people are extremely busy. They're not hanging out on Facebook. They're not Googling. If you're like them, if you're like me, I feel like I'm doing 3 jobs since the start of this crisis. I don't have a moment to breathe. And so what has actually proven the most successful marketing strategy is traditional selling. Email, sending a personalized email, phoning, talking to people, and having those conversations. The marketing strategies, the sales strategies look a little bit like 2005 before social media. So maybe you don't need a substantive marketing budget. Now, in say a business to consumer or retail perspective, I would really advise on how can you be conserving your cash while being recognized. And one of the most effective ways to do that is going to be through email, is going to be through using social media posting and content and trying to harvest a relationship directly with your consumer. Print advertising, those types of things are probably on the low end of the things. So think first and foremost about conversation versus promotion, and that'll get you a leg up on that.
Okay, we have another question from Patty. She says, we're in the wine and beer tour business. Do you think people will want to escape and go on these or be hesitant?
I think people are looking for escape. If I can tell you that the psychological toll of being stuck in my house right now is driving me bonkers. But the issue that we face in hospitality right now in tourism is how do you mitigate the risk? If you think of these activities, entertainment is, if somebody is in a state of fear, they don't necessarily invest in entertainment. So one of the things that you need to really communicate clearly with people is how you are going to create a fun learning experience that is safe. And in that, what people are looking for is an opportunity, but they want to make sure that they're doing it well. So I think one of the ways to do that is through communicating how you're going to create a fun, vibrant experience, how you're going to get them into seeing things that they want to see. But maybe if instead of in doing some of these tours, the tastings are done outside, or you change your process to support how your customers are going to want to feel comfortable. And then as we find a better balance, then you'll be able to adjust. But part of this right now is really risk mitigation.
Thanks, Jeremy. Another question from Rudy. I would like to reach out to the public and private sectors to inform them that we are here for them for all their safety needs. What would be a proper platform to accomplish this? Email, social media, mail out, or radio ad?
Great question, Rudy. I don't have a clear answer for you because I don't have the full scope of your business and your market. But what I would suggest is for you to really look at your customers and how they buy. So rather than doing, one of the metaphors that I think of is the old Wayne Gretzky quote, go to where the customers are versus where the customers have been. At the best of times, our marketing looks like pee-wee hockey. It's a bunch of kids skating all over the rink, falling off all over each other, and nobody actually takes a shot on ice. So choose a few sniper style specialized ways that get you to actively engage your customers. Email is going to be very powerful. Social is going to be very powerful, but where deliberately are your customers? So if you do that first analysis, you're going to get to clearer answers.
He says, I instruct ministry safety courses, if that helps.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. Like, who is your target market? Where are they? How do you engage with them? And if it's in a B2B type of environment, phone's going to be your best bet.
Awesome. Another question from Monique. How do you decide when you've been helpful enough, free services for community, and when it's time to start charging?
I love this question, Monique. I hate free. Hate it. So one of the big mistakes that I've seen again and again and again through this crisis is this idea of reciprocity, that if we give our services away for free, if we give all of our online courses away for free, people will remember us and come back to us at the end of this crisis. Well, the reality is really twofold. Number one, that who can remember what happened yesterday? When every day feels like Monday, we are losing track of time and where we got content and engagement. So that reciprocity thing is breaking. The second thing is we don't know how long this whole cycle is going to last. The basic view of things is until we get a vaccine, herd immunity, or therapeutics, which could be the middle of next year, we could be still facing this issue. So what you need in that situation, and what all of us need in that situation, is cash. So what we try to think through is, how can you be very purposeful and deliberate right now? How can you be helpful and relevant? But in that, being helpful and relevant means selling a product or selling a service so that you generate cash. If you're not able to sell something, if all you're doing is giving yourself away for free, you're not going to survive this. So no more free. It's all around focusing on what you can be helpful and generous on for a fee.
Awesome advice. Another question. I was wondering how you would recommend what employees say goes out to your audience. I have team members wanting to do live events, but my fear is people are so sensitive right now and someone says the wrong thing. My fix for this is that everything is pre-recorded, but I don't want to take away from creating authentic conversation between staff and the public. Any tips?
I would empower your people to go live. Like, I love pre-recorded content. I think it's amazing. But you have this permission right now to be messy, to not have the perfect video, to not have all of these things. So set guidelines for your team of what is appropriate content and what do you want to communicate. If you got clear structure on that, and go out and communicate that. Try every medium right now to connect with people, because like you've got this opportunity right now to be incredibly present and generous, and people are tuning in. Like, we look at the engagement rates right now, because people are home, because they're looking for entertainment, they're actually consuming more content than ever before. And the live experiences are different, and they do create a different form of engagement. And so try it out. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, I think the fear of backlash is far worse than not doing it. Like, just try it and deal with any issues as they emerge.
I think that's all for our questions right now.
Wonderful. Let me flip on to
We have one more. Sorry, one more just popped up from Chris. I am a recreation programmer for the town. We have been putting up videos on our website thinking that it's good to drive them to our website. The videos are free and there are health and wellness videos and activities for adults and children. We think it's a service and it will keep them invested in our facility and department. Do you think we are on the right track?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at the Element Fitness example I gave before at the top of this, is so Element's giving their programs and videos away for free, but where they are charging and where the membership fees are is in the home coach, in the tailored program, in the community activities, all of the other stuff out there. So what I would be looking at is, you've got this great content, but then how do you layer on additional hooks, whether it's a membership fee, whether there is accountability, that you've got lots and lots of opportunities. So again, it's looking at the ways to extend this and build relationships. Even if it's going to be a free community-driven service, what you want to make sure is that it is perceived as valuable and engaged and used. And so I think that whatever you decide, especially in the charitable sector, is choose the impact you want and the measures that you're going to have, and then hold yourself accountable to that. That's going to be your measuring stick.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me do a final thought, and thanks for all the great questions. If anyone has more questions, I'll put up my contact info that you can do that. So let me wrap things up with a few final thoughts. My dad was one of my great mentors, and working with him in family business was amazing. He had all these beautiful quotes. And one of the ones he always said was, "Nothing relieves pressure like sales." And I think this is really so true, especially right now, that the pressure and anxiety that we face is that we've been forced into a state of change. If you think what causes stress, it's really two things. It's loss of control or loss of predictability. And when that affects your revenue, that creates immense stress and pressure for a business owner and their team. So how can you be really helpful, but also tie this back to your ability to sell your products and services? And if you can be fast and you can adapt quickly, then you've got an opportunity. I think this moment in time is probably the greatest entrepreneurial moment that we could ever ask for. So if you want to get a copy of the worksheet, just send me an email at jeremy@stickybranding.com. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm on all the social platforms at Sticky Branding, or on LinkedIn at Jeremy Miller. Send me a message, direct message me, whatever it is. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to participate. We really do believe that this is a moment in our time where we feel very purpose-driven to help entrepreneurs navigate this crisis. And if we can be of service and you want to learn more about what we do, again, feel free to reach out and we can book a time to chat. So thank you so much for participating today. Let me hand this back to you, Terry, and you can do a final thought and any community announcements.
Thanks, Jeremy. That was awesome. As usual, you, I think, helped to clear a lot of things up for most of us who are really struggling. And this isn't going to go away quickly. We all know that. But it is going to go away to a degree. And I really appreciate that you've given us, I think, a few clear tools that we can really take forward and step back, take a look at our own businesses and see, how can I, think about that a little bit differently than what I have been. So I really appreciate that. For anybody who hasn't seen Jeremy live, he's even more dynamic in person. So I encourage you, once all this passes, to check out someone. I'm sure we'll have him back up in Muskoka again. Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate that. We do have another webinar that we're hosting, or sort of putting out there, that another one of our centers is hosting. Through the province of Ontario, there's 57 small business enterprise centers, and we are all looking at how we can get you all the best information that you need to move forward in the best way for your own business. So check it out. The one tonight is actually about how to build a side hustle for yourself, if that's the way to go to help get you through this. So check out our Facebook. It's Muskoka Small Business Center, and you'll find a lot of tips and tools there. I hope you'll follow us and keep in tuned in this area. Thanks very much for joining us. The questions were awesome, and I think just the fact that you showed up shows that you have a good chance at helping your business really get, not just survive this, but like Jeremy says, to thrive during this time. So thanks very much. I'm gonna go now, and I hope to see all of you or hear from you at the center.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon, and this will be recorded and we'll share this afterwards. Have a great afternoon.
Awesome. Bye.